Hello, and welcome to the OneC Getting Started video. This video will cover how to install the latest version of OneC, fill in company details, enter opening balances, and we'll go through a basic business scenario of a trading company. Then, we'll see the results of our actions in various reports. We'll start with the installation of OneC, and after that, we'll talk about the basic business scenario we'll be going through. So we'll be doing the installation of OneC on a Windows computer, and I assume that you already have the OneC platform installed. But in case you don't, you can always request help from your local partner or simply visit support1ci.com. So first of all, you'll need to open the installation archive. Let's go to the setup folder and launch the exe file. And we're gonna click next, and here's the path to template directory, which is where all the templates are installed by default. So keep that in mind as we'll need it in further steps. Now let's click next, and let's click finish. So after the installation is finished, the system will pop up a release note. It's a page where you can read about the latest improvements to OneC. So now we have our template installed, and let's deploy it. For that, we're gonna double click the OneC Enterprise icon, and let's add an infobase. Let's click next. And as you can see, OneC installs two versions of the template, and we're gonna need the one that has no demo data. Now let's click next and give a name to the infobase. And we're gonna select OneC Enterprise Server as location type. And please note that you should be adding the infobase from the same local network where your server cluster is. Now let's type in all the parameters of the infobase. Server cluster. And please note that you'd have to enter your own cluster name. Then infobase name. Database management system. Database server, database name, database user. In most cases, the server has SA as a username, but in our case, we have SA1C as a username. So now let's just click next and click finish. Now we have our infobase deployed from the template. The process took about 5 minutes, and we're ready for the initial startup. So now we are going to open the infobase. And at this moment, the system prepares itself for the first launch. So here we see the first launch window, and usually OneC is delivered with the first launch file, which is a set of regional settings that your local partner provides. And these settings can include VAT rates, currencies, or types of businesses typical to the region, and so on. And as you can see Germany in the list, we can tell that the system successfully recognized the first launch file, but you can always choose this file by clicking the load from file link. And usually the first launch file is located in the templates directory that we mentioned earlier. Now let's click proceed. And now we can finally click restart for the changes to take effect. So now the system created the administrator user, and we can select it and click OK. At this point, the system shows up a security warning, and we can now prohibit the opening of external reports or data processors. And we're gonna allow it as we will need it in further steps. And once again, we're gonna restart the system. So as you can see, we installed the German version of 1C Drive, and now let's switch the language to English. We're gonna find the active users and double click on the administrator, and here we have the language set up, and we're gonna choose English. Let's save it, and now let's log out from the system for the changes to take effect. And now we're gonna open the infobase again. And you can see that the language switched to English. Now we're ready for the process of filling in company details. But before that, we're gonna discuss the business scenario we'll be going through. So let's assume we're a German trading company and we sell consumer goods. We sell different types of products and we buy them from two major distributors, and we plan to start buying products from abroad. We also can have one or several contracts with our distributors, and we have two general product categories, and each one is stored in a separate warehouse. We sell our products in different packages and have different sales prices. The sales prices depend on the package and the product. Also, we have data which we had exported from our legacy ERP system, and it's going to be used for the opening balances. This data includes information about our stock, our bank accounts. It has the list of our clients, their balances, as well as the list of our suppliers and our settlements with them. So let's get back to company details, and let's start by specifying the name of our company. So let's go to company and company details. So now, to be able to edit the legal name, we should click more actions, allow editing attributes, click check and allow editing. Now you may ask why the attributes on the company details are blocked from editing. This is done due to the fact that it's sensitive data and it has to be protected from unintentional changes or changes from users that don't have the respective rights to change that information. So now we can change the legal name. Say we want to add LLC, for example. So this name will be used in print forms, and the alias field will be used to represent the company in the infobase. So this is what you're gonna see in reports or while working with documents. And here you can also specify which method will be used to convert amounts in foreign currency. And by default it's set to divisor, but you can change it to multiplier. So now we're gonna click save and close. There's sure more to explore in the company details, but that's basically what we're gonna need to go through our business case and start entering opening balances. So we're gonna enter the opening balances with the help of the opening balances wizard, and it's accessible from the home page. We're just gonna click start. Now let's enter the opening balance day and let it be, for example, November the 1st. And opening balance wizard has two operational modes, and we're gonna choose the advanced mode, as in this mode we'll be able to choose the options that are suitable for our business case. Now let's click next. So the first option that we see here is the multi-currencies option, and we're gonna keep it switched on because as you can remember, our company plans to buy products from abroad. And also we see the functional currency, which is euros, and we're also gonna leave it like this. Now let's move to the next step and import the bank balances from our Excel files. So let's just click on the import button and click on the import data from external file. We're going to choose our file. And now you have to map the data from the Excel file with OneSea Drive objects. So let's just click on the first column and tell the system that the first column will be the SWIFT. In the second column we'll have the currency. We're gonna choose the currency name. The third is the IBAN code. And the fourth will be the amount. And the last one will be the bank name. After you finish the mapping, you can save a mapping template. And this might be a very useful tool if you're gonna perform the same action multiple times. Now we're gonna click next. And here, as you can see, one row will be skipped and 2 rows will be added. The row that the system skipped was the row that had the column titles. However, you can tell the system to skip that row exactly from the beginning. And we're gonna click back once again, and we're gonna increase that number. Import the file again, and now we see that the first row disappeared. Now we're gonna click next, and as you can see, there are no skipped rows. So now let's import the data to the application. And you can see that the bank balances were successfully imported. And please note that the data structure doesn't have to be exactly the same as you've seen in the example, and all the necessary fields will be colored in red. Now let's see how the importing affected the cash statement report. Now let's close the wizard and save the changes. Let's open the cash management subsystem and open the cash balance report. And let's click generate. And here we see our balances. So now let's close the report and get back to the wizard. But now let's proceed to the inventory tab. Now let's go through the options that we have here. The first one would be multi-warehouse accounting, and what that means is that you can have more than one warehouse in your infobase, and we're gonna leave it switched on because we have several warehouses in our business case. We won't use storage bins, and we won't use variants and batches, and we're gonna leave all that options switched off. But we'll leave the multiple units of measure option switched on, and what that means is that we will be able to create more than one unit of measure for a single product. So now let's import the stock from our Excel file, and once again we're gonna click on the import button. We're gonna choose our file. Now let's map the columns from the Excel file, and we'll start with the first column, which is the warehouse. The second will be the description of our product. Also, we have a detailed description. Also, we have the item number. And also we have the unit of measure in which the product will be stored in the warehouse. And once again, the data in the file doesn't have to be exactly the same. You only have to provide the required fields, which are marked in red, and which are the product, the unit of measure, the quantity, and the price. We're going to map the quantity and the price. So now we can save a mapping template. And click next. Now we see that the title row also got recognized as a product. And once again, to avoid that situation, we can simply increase the import data starting row. Once again, let's import the file. Let's click next. Now everything's fine. Let's import the data to application. Now let's close the wizard and see how our actions affected the available stock report. We're gonna save the changes. We're gonna open the warehouse subsystem and open the available stock report. And we're gonna click generate. Now you can see that OneSeaDrive created 2 warehouses besides the one that were already here, and you can now use them as filters in reports. Just double click the name of the warehouse and click generate. As you can see, the report shows quantities that we have on hand and in order. When we'll be placing orders in the system, the available amount will decrease. Now let's close the report and get back to the wizard. And now we're gonna open Supplier Balances. So on this tab, you can fill in information about the settled and the outstanding payments to your suppliers. And as we have 2 contracts with our suppliers, we're gonna switch on the contracts option. And we're gonna leave the contract types option switched off. Now let's move on to importing supplier balances. So as usual, we click the import button. Let's choose our file. So in the Excel data, we can tell OneSeaDrive how exactly the transaction was made. We can specify the document date, the number, the amount, was that an advanced transaction or not, and we can specify the type of the document. But we can also leave the document type empty, and in this case the system will implement the following logic. If the advanced column has true value, then OneSeaDrive will create a bank payment. But if it has false as a value, then a supplier invoice will be created. And please note that all automatically generated types of documents are for restricted use, and they cannot be copied or modified for further use. They can only be used to set off debts or advances. So now let's map the data and import the supplier balances. We're gonna start from the first column, and that would be the document date. Second one will be document number. Third will be the counterparty name. Then the contract. Then the document type. The amount. And the advanced property. So now we're gonna save the template. And we're gonna click next. So once again, the first row got recognized as a supplier balance information. So we're just gonna skip it and import the data to the application. And now you can see that OneSeaDrive created counterparties, their contracts, and the billing documents. Now let's move on to the next step and load our customer balances. So the process of filling in customer balances is almost identical, except if there's no information about the document type. OneSeaDrive creates either a sales invoice or a bank receipt document. Now let's map the columns and import our data. Let's save the template. And let's click next. Let's import the data to the application. And we're good to go. So now let's move to the finish step. And let's click finish. So now let's get back to our business scenario, and let's say at some point your company decides to start buying new products from abroad. And for that reason, I'm gonna show you how to create a new product, create a new supplier, and probably add some new currencies and import their exchange rates. So let's start by creating a new product. Let's proceed to purchases, products, and click create. Let's fill in description. And let's fill in the units of measure. We can also fill in item number to have quick access to the product in documents or reports. Now let's save and close. Now we need to add another currency if, for example, our new supplier is located in Romania. And now let's go to cash management. Click on currencies. Click create. And choose from classifier. Now we need to find the currency in the list. Let's click find. And search by alphabetic code, which would be RON. And let's click find. And let's click select. So now that we've added the new currency to the list, let's open it and select import from the internet. And let's click save and close. So now let's tell the system which import processor to use. And for that, we're gonna click settings. And we're gonna click others. And here we're gonna click configure. And here we're gonna click drop down, show all. And here we're gonna use the data processor that uses European Central Bank as a source. And now let's click save and close. And if you don't find any data processors in the list, you should request them from your local 1C Drive partner and then import them manually. And for that, you're gonna need to go to settings, print forms and data processors, additional reports and data processors. And here you can click add from file. And here you will need to head to the templates directory and open this folder and choose the data processor that you need. Now let's import the exchange rates. We're gonna head back to currencies and click on import button. And if you want, you can choose the period. We're gonna leave it like that. Now let's click import and close. Now once the drive is importing the exchange rates, and the exchange rates have been successfully imported. Now let's create a new supplier. Let's go to purchases and suppliers. And let's click create. And let's fill in the name. And if you remember, we previously turned on the contracts option, and now we're able to create as much contracts as we want. So we're gonna check contracts in the supplier card, and we're gonna click save. So now we can head to contracts and create another one. And let's choose the new currency for the contract. So let's switch to billing tab and choose the new currency. Now we're gonna click save and close and set the new contract as default one. Now let's create the first invoice with the new supplier. So let's go to purchases, supplier invoices, and let's click create. So let's type in the name of our new supplier. Let's choose it. And as you see, the new contract appeared automatically. Now let's add the new product to the invoice. And as you remember, we have the item number for quick access to the product in documents. So we can just type it in instead of typing the full description of the product. Let's put a quantity and the price. And let's pause the document. Now I'm going to show you how to register supplier prices. For that, we're going to go to settings, purchases and warehouse, and we're going to turn on this option. Now we're going to head back to the invoice. And we're going to click on the currency hyperlink. And we're going to create a new type of prices for that supplier. We're going to click create. We're going to choose the currency of that prices. And we're going to specify the supplier in the prices type. And we're going to save and close. And we're going to check the register supplier prices checkbox. And now you have to post again the supplier invoice. So now each time we're going to buy this product from that supplier, the prices will automatically appear in the documents. Now let's move on to the sales process, but before that we're going to set the sales prices for our new product. So let's open the product and click on pricing and set price. Now we're going to create a new price type for the product, and that would be the wholesale price. So let's click create. We're gonna fill in the description. And here we can also specify the company and the pricing method. Now we're gonna choose manual, but later on I'll give you an example of how we can use the other pricing methods. So now let's just click save and close, and let's set the price. So we're gonna set the price for this product as approximately 950 euros. And we're gonna pause this document. Now let's set the retail price, which will be based on the wholesale price. So let's close this document and head to sales and price types. We're going to indicate the wholesale price as a basis for our retail price. Now let's create the retail price. I'm gonna fill in the description. Gonna select the company. And in the pricing method, we're gonna select the base price plus static. And here we're gonna indicate the wholesale price as basis. So we're gonna click show all and select this type of price. And we're gonna apply a 10% markup. We're gonna save and close. And now we're gonna have a look at how Once You Drive applies these settings. So let's go to sales, price setup, let's select our company, our retail price, and let's click fill in and add by price type effective on. So here we'll select our wholesale price. Let's click add. So now we're gonna apply an action to the wholesale price, which will be calculate. And we're gonna click execute. And now we see that the new price was recalculated. So now we're gonna click set and close. Now that we've set the sales prices, we are ready to take orders. So for the sales flow, let's look at the following scenario. Let's imagine that we have a client that makes orders during the day, and at the end of the day we consolidate all the orders from that client into one shipping and do the invoicing. So let's create 2 sales orders with different contracts. We're gonna go to sales, sales orders. I'm gonna click create, and we're gonna choose our customer. Let it be this one. And as you remember, we have more than one contract. So let's choose the first contract. And let's add the product. And as we've set the prices, we can now select them by clicking this link. We can select the retail price. And don't forget to check the refill prices checkbox. And now the price is automatically filled in. So we're gonna pause the document. And the system tells us that we forgot to fill in the department, so let's do it. And we're gonna select the main department. So now let's pause the document. And let's create the second order by simply copying the first one. Let's click on the copy button and pause the document. And the third sales order gonna be with another contract. So once again, let's just copy it. But here we're gonna select another contract. And it's gonna be this one. So now let's pause the document. Now let's dispatch 2 or 3 sales orders. We're gonna go to sales. And we're gonna go to goods dispatching. And here we see all of the orders we created. And we know that the third one was with another contract. So let's uncheck it. And let's click on settings and see what we can do with these sales orders. So we can either create a sales invoice right away, or we can first create a goods issue document. So let's choose the goods issue document. And we're gonna post automatically the documents that we create. Let's now save and close. So after making the settings, let's click generate. And let's have a look at the generated documents. So the two orders were consolidated into one shipping. Here it is. Now let's have a look at the sales order statement report. And for that, we're going to go to sales and sales order statement. And we're going to click generate. And now we see that we have two orders shipped and we have one that is still to ship. We can also check whether or not the sales orders were shipped in the sales order list. And if the order has a green light under the dispatch status, then it means it was dispatched. So we've got 2 or 3 orders shipped. And now let's invoice the orders that we've dispatched. So we're gonna return to goods dispatching. Open the goods issue document. Click generate. And select the sales invoice document. And now you can see that all information from the goods issue document was inherited by the sales invoice. Now let's pause the sales invoice and see how this affected the statement of account report. And as you might remember, we registered an advance payment from this customer on the opening balances step. And this advance payment got cleared while posting the sales invoice. So let's now get back to the sales invoice and see how that happened. If we go to Advanced Clearing tab, we'll see that OneC Drive picked up the bank receipt and used it for advanced clearing purposes. And if you don't want the advances to be cleared automatically, you can switch off this option. In order to do that, we're gonna go to Settings, Users and Rights Settings, Users. We're gonna open the administrator and we're gonna click on User Settings. And here we will find the set of advanced payments automatically. And we're gonna switch it off. Now let's close it. Now let's get back to the goods dispatching workplace and dispatch the remaining order. But this time we'll generate the sales invoice right away. And we're gonna click generate. Now that the orders are invoiced, it's time to look at the profitability. And we're gonna open the analysis block. And let's open net sales by customers. And let's click generate. As you can see, this report shows us the amount of net sales, the cost of goods sold, the gross profit, and the margin rate. Now let's say that we want to see the profit depending on the contract. So let's click setup. Let's click advanced. And let's go to structure tab. And we're going to delete the unchecked fields. And now let's add the contract field. We're gonna open the document field. And here lies the contract field. So now let's click close and generate. We can now save this variant of the report by clicking Save Report option. Let's give it a name. And click Save. Now let's look at another report. We're gonna go back to analysis. And let's open the income and expenses by sales orders. Gonna click generate. So this report shows if you have profit or loss, and also the income and expenses group by GL accounts. As always, you can modify this report and save the report by clicking the Save Report option. There's still a lot more to explore in the analysis section, but that's all for now. Thanks for watching.